Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello and welcome to my research presentation titled Cultural Adaptation Communication Experience of IISMA Awardees, a Phenomenological Study of IISMA Awardees at UCL and Lancaster University. My name is Avisyla Syahda Faiqa, and while doing this research, I received help and guidance from one of Unisba's amazing lecturer, Professor Dr. Ika Junitati Wardani, SS MSc. Introduction. The Indonesian International Student Mobility Awards (ISMA) program provides Indonesian students with the opportunity to experience studying directly at overseas university with new cultures. Of course, cultural adaptation is a challenge, especially for Muslimah awardees, but this does not dampen their desire to learn about new cultures. In addition to adapting, they must also introduce their own culture, both as Indonesian students and as a Muslim woman. Here is the problem research and research objectives. First, to identify and analyze the motives of awardees in choosing universities in the UK to participate in the 2024 ISMA program. Second, to identify and analyze the cultural adaptation process of awardees during student exchanges. And lastly, to identify and analyze how awardees maintain ethical communication in Islam during student exchanges. And here is the literature review that related to communication cultural experience. Framework. At first, I wanted to know how the ISMA awardees in the UK experience cultural adaptation using a phenomenological approach. Assuming that the awardees had a motive on joining and registered for the ISMA program. Once they were accepted, they would gain cultural adaptation experience that would certainly be related to the Islamic communication ethics implementation, to identify and analyze their role as Muslim women. This is what will then describe cultural adaptation communication experience of ISMA awardees. Research methods: paradigm constructivist approach, phenomenology method, qualitative, data collection technique, interview and documentation. Subject ISMA Muslimah awardee at UCL and Lancaster University 2024. Data analysis technique, data reduction, data presentation and conclusion, and data validity test through source triangulation. Results and findings. First, we have motives. We begin with the initial step, the ISMA registration, which created the students' motivation for applying, that the researcher divided into two main categories: background motivation and targeted aspiration. These background motivations are categorized into two main types: external vectors and internal vectors. Under external vectors, we find the influence of parental roles and support, friends' stories and encouragement. Lastly, graduation requirements from their academic institution. Meanwhile, internal factors reflect more personal drives such as a desire to step out of their comfort zone, curiosity about foreign education system, a long-held dream to study abroad, lastly, interest in their current field of study. But beyond the immediate goal of applying, students also hold on to targeted aspiration. These aspirations include improving personal skills, gaining access to better education, acquiring new knowledge, studying specific courses offered by the host university, lastly, becoming part of a desired global community. All this motivation lead to a clear action point, which is the decision to apply for the program. Next, we have cultural adaptation process, which illustrates through this curve. We begin in week 1 with the preparation phase. At this stage, turns out individuals feel anxious due to uncertainty, but dominated by euphoria from anticipation. As we move into weeks 2 to 6, we enter the challenges phase. This is when reality sets in. Individuals may begin to experience discomfort, confusion, or even self-doubt as they face cultural differences and daily life challenges. During this period, their emotional state tend to dip into the negative zone, which shown through rejection phase, which typically occurs between weeks 3 to 7. Here, individuals feels homesick and stressed as a response to the challenges faced. Emotional lows tend to peak during this time, but awardees try hard to develop a new coping mechanism to stabilize their emotional state. Eventually, by week 8, we reach the acceptance stage. Although not always fully resolved, individuals begin to adjust and stabilize emotionally. They start to feel more comfortable and may even embrace aspects of the new culture, leading to a more positive overall experience. This curve is a reminder that adaptation is not linear. It involves ups and downs, and that's completely normal in any intercultural experience. And then we have Islamic communication ethics implementation, which seen through 5 important points, namely factual words, understandable words, courtesy, gentleness, and beneficial speech. 4 of the 5 points appear to have been implemented well. Unfortunately, however, the implementation of beneficial speech is still lacking, as the awardee still often speaks using language that is categorized as inappropriate and detrimental. Through this research, researchers are able to develop a new model titled Model of Cultural Adaptation Communication of Muslimah Awardees in England. Starting from the cultural adaptation communication experience of Muslimah Awardees in England who had motives for participating in the student exchange program. These motives then encouraged the awardees to undergo a process of cultural adaptation communication related to the Islamic communication ethic implementation, as I've explained before. Finally, the study describes the cultural adaptation communication experiences of Muslimah awardees in England over a 3-month period. During this time, the awardees were able to complete the cultural adaptation process through acculturation and integration, as evidenced by their ability to adopt the new culture without abandoning their original culture. They were also able to apply Islamic communication ethics effectively. However, both the cultural adaptation process and its implementation are still considered imperfect. Researchers are also able to develop typologies that are used to categorize individuals based on their social behavior, self-perception, and interaction styles in cultural adaptation communication experience of Muslim awardees in England. First, we have a hatching egg. Here we have Rara. The pale orange and the small circle showed how inexperienced she is in adapting in a new environment with different cultures, and how small her comfort zone is. The student exchange program became her first experience and the beginning for her to widen her comfort zone. Second, we have validation seeker. Here we have Kaka and Fanny. They have the darkest orange and largest circle, which showed how experienced they are and how wide their comfort zone is, though they are always eager to learn new things. The question mark represents how strong their curiosity is, so when they get out of their comfort zone, they always have a question to be proven. Lastly, we have social laid back. The third typology features a more relaxed and fluid social domino. The presence of movement arrows and overlapping elements implies ease in social interaction and adaptability. Pia is identified within this category, representing someone who is likely sociable, easygoing, and unconcerned with external judgment. This typology embraces comfort in social settings and tends to avoid confrontation or pressure. Each typology is visually distinguished by color, which represent their experience adapting in a new environment with different cultures. The darker the color is, showed how experienced they are, and shape size, which represent their comfort zone. The wider the circle is, the wider their comfort zone is. To emphasize the emotional or behavioral traits associated with the individual's experience within them. This typological approach helps to better understand the diversity of social roles and personal developments in a foreign cultural settings. Conclusion. Research on the cultural adaptation communication experience of IISMA awardees in England shows that motivation stems from various internal and external drives, as well as future aspiration, with strong determination and parental support serving as the primary motivators. The cultural adaptation process occurs through 4 phases. First, preparation, second, challenges, third, rejection, and lastly, acceptance, with significant emotional challenges that are successfully overcome despite their relatively short adaptation period. Additionally, the awardee maintains Islamic communication ethics, although the implementation of beneficial speech still needs improvement. Here is the limitation and study forward. That's all from me. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.